What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. After repeated requests for their release dating back to January 2018, the WWE has finally agreed to release the Team of the Revival of Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder from their WWE contracts. What's led the WWE to make such a major shift after their previous policy of not granting releases? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 9 reasons why the WWE fired the Revival. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. The Revival have been in the WWE since 2014, debuting on the main roster in 2017, but they have been unhappy with their WWE careers since early 2018, requesting their releases several times, despite the WWE throwing big money contracts at them. The Revival have not been quiet about their unhappiness in the WWE either, taking to social media on more than one occasion. Finally, on 10th April 2020, WWE.com released the following statement. Effective today, Friday, April 10th, 2020, WWE and the Revival have agreed on their immediate release from the WWE. We wish them all the best in their future endeavors. One of the biggest questions is whether the Revival can work for another wrestling promotion or whether they are bound by a 90-day non-compete clause. According to Pro Wrestling Sheet's Ryan Satin, who also works on FS1's WWE Backstage show, according to sources, the two wrestlers do not have a no-compete clause and are now free to work or sign with any promotion who might be interested. Fans likely won't find this out until the Revival are officially signed, so at this point, their immediate wrestling future is up in the air. Looking at the WWE and the Revival, why did the company decide to release them when it's highly likely they'll work for the WWE's competitors AEW? Well, let's look at those 9 reasons. Number 1, they needed to trim the payroll. Arguably the biggest reason why the WWE decided to dump the Revival is that the company needs to trim its payroll. Given the current health crisis and the considerable revenue the WWE lost by not being able to air WrestleMania 36 at the Raymond James Stadium, an estimated loss of around $22 million, you can expect some cost-cutting measures from the promotion, including its roster. Right now, the WWE's roster is at a ridiculous level, with some longtime fans comparing it to the days of WCW, when Ted Turner's promotion paid hundreds of wrestlers yet used a fraction of them. The WWE has been criticized for signing performers to big money, long-term, typically 5-year deals, even if they have no intention of using them. Vince McMahon's mindset is that he'd rather keep these performers in the WWE rather than see them help All Elite Wrestling. In one regard, that's a form of investing in the future, but more than a few financial analysts and stockholders see things differently, picturing it as a tremendous waste of funds that could be paid out in shareholder dividends. Number 2, they need to impress investors. The WWE seems to like to make cosmetic changes when it's time for their financial earnings report, and their first quarter report will be here before you know it, 23rd April to be exact. Just as the WWE canned their co-presidents in the previous quarter, the WWE is likely going to point out the Revival's release as a sign that the promotion is trimming their payroll. Don't be surprised to see them get rid of other disgruntled workers too, as it hopes these minor changes will reassure shareholders and Wall Street analysts that all is well within Titan Tower. While one would think that investors and financial wizards would have caught on to the WWE's various tricks and excuses, some still put faith in the promotion's ability to correct itself. Number 3, morale. Another factor is morale. WWE locker room morale has been low for some time, and people around who don't want to work in your promotion is a bad way to keep other wrestlers happy. It's easy for discontent to spread, and while many wrestlers are locked down to long-term contracts, it's better to have a contented locker room than have a discontented one. Wrestlers won't have to listen to the Revival complain about their situation anymore, and wrestlers can focus on their own careers rather than listening to complaints from others. Number 4, they have enough tag teams. Unlike AEW, where tag team wrestling is seen as equal or close to singles wrestling, WWE views tag team wrestling as a sideshow at best. As far as they're concerned, the promotion has plenty of tag teams on all 3 rosters and can always form new teams from singles wrestlers it doesn't know how to use, such as the new team of Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. While fans may disagree with the WWE's assessment of the quality of how they've been booking their teams, such as Raw where the promotion somehow managed to book the Viking Raiders into the ground, the WWE seems to think they don't need the Revival. The reality is that the WWE shouldn't need any more teams, it's just they haven't been booking them well, and frankly, keeping the Revival around isn't going to help or hurt the promotion as long as the bad booking continues. Number 5. The Revival were leaving soon anyway. The Revival's contracts were set to expire soon, with Scott Dawson's contract expiring any day now, and Dash Wilder's expiring sometime in June. However, they would have had to wait for Wilder's contract to be up before performing together. Right now, we haven't heard anything concrete as to whether they are bound by a non-compete clause, but if they are, the Revival can't wrestle until around 10th July. That means WWE giving them a release will free up money on their payroll, while still tying up the Revival from working with the competition. Number 6. AEW can't use them right away. Even if Ryan Satin's sources are correct that the Revival can work right away, the fact is that AEW has already taped its programs for several weeks, believed to be around the middle of May. The Revival probably won't be in an AEW ring until then, and while Dawson and Wilder can appear in promos, that's the extent of things. Number 7. The WWE doesn't think AEW has enough television time to capitalize on them. There's no denying that All Elite Wrestling has a strong roster of up-and-coming stars as well as veteran performers to round things out. The promotion's only problem is that they have limited television time to work with. Despite the talk of All Elite Wrestling getting a new television program, that hasn't materialized yet, and until it does, the promotion can only showcase talent on a limited basis. The top stars like the Elite and the Inner Circle get their weekly television time, which only leaves a certain amount of time for rising stars as well as its women's division. Despite this limited time, AEW has built up a number of stars, but as their roster continues to grow, this is going to become more of a problem. It's likely WWE officials simply don't think AEW will have the time to properly utilize the Revival, and that Tony Khan is merely going to pay Dawson and Wilder a bigger contract with little return on his investment. We do think that's flawed thinking, but it's likely another reason why the WWE released them. Number 8. They're injury prone. One important factor to consider, at least in the WWE's opinion, is that the Revival have dealt with injuries that sidelined each other, which are likely to happen again in AEW's hard-hitting style of wrestling. While the WWE likes to keep anyone from competing in All Elite Wrestling, they may feel that the Revival aren't going to be any good to AEW if they're constantly on the shelf dealing with injuries from crazy spots. Anyone who doubts how wild AEW's tag teams are need look no further than the recent match between Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks, or the insane ladder match between the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. The Revival will likely be eager to showcase their tag team skills, which could lead to recklessness in the ring and injuries from high-risk maneuvers. What's odd about this lining of reasoning is that from what we've heard, one or more injuries is all it takes for a wrestler's stock to go down in Vince McMahon's opinion. While neither Wilder or Dawson's injuries were frequent, there may be enough in Vinnie Mac's mind to justify releasing the two performers. Number 9. It sends a message to the locker room. While it might seem that the Revival won by getting their release, nothing could be further from the truth. Although Dawson and Wilder have been looking to exit the WWE since 2018, only now have they finally decided to send them on their way. We've discussed how the WWE likely sees this release as a win for them and a loss for anyone who signs the Revival, but there's also the factor that this move reminds WWE superstars that no one is going to get their release no matter how badly they want it. Like Luke Harper, the WWE kept the Revival around almost to the end of their contracts and punished them during their last few months by keeping them at home, where all they could collect was their downside guarantee. The WWE did offer the Revival big money deals, but the Revival wanted to be used in a creative way, something the WWE refuses to do when it comes to regular wrestlers. While there's no creative control per se, top stars like Brock Lesnar exercise considerable influence with Vince McMahon. They weren't going to give in to the Revival's requests, or demands depending on how you look at it, for better booking. Based on interviews with backstage personnel and with former wrestlers, it's clear that wrestlers go along with whatever Vince McMahon has planned for them, whether they like it or think it's the stupidest idea since the gobbledygooker. Again, Vince is sending a message to the locker room that there's the Vince McMahon way and the wrong way. Ultimately, we think several of the WWE's potential reasons are short-sighted and that the Revival are going to thrive wherever they go, particularly in AEW. Nevertheless, by the WWE's judgment, they are releasing a team thus saving money, helping morale, and doing nothing to help their competitors. Given the WWE's current financial situation and the difficulties caused to the business by the ongoing health crisis, this isn't a terrible decision by the WWE, but they likely won't reap all the benefits that they're counting on. But there you have it guys, 9 reasons why the WWE fired the Revival. What do you guys think about this? And where do you think Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson will wrestle? New Japan Pro Wrestling? All Elite Wrestling? Ring of Honor? Impact Wrestling maybe? Let us know your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.